We are honored to have you joining us. We want to thank each and every one of you for not only your time today, but also for your continued support. We could not do what we do for our fellow neighbors without the dedication of our loyal supporters like you. Thank you for being a part of our solution. Since we organized this opportunity to come together, we have been made aware of a New Hampshire State Senate bill that is threatening affordable housing in New Hampshire and would greatly impact the work that we do with our resident-owned community programs, also known as ROC. If this bill passes, it would be detrimental to one of New Hampshire's most successful affordable housing efforts. We wanted to make you all aware of it and have the information on ways that you too could help advocate for the importance for this bill not to be passed. Before we head into this, we will give you a brief financial update as well as a brief overview of the importance of our ROC program. Okay, now for some housekeeping items. You may have noticed that you are muted, and that's to help cut down on the background noise. But that doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. There are plenty of ways to participate. First is by using the chat feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen to ask questions throughout the presentation. If we miss any, we will try to catch them at the end when we have our question and answer opportunity. At that time, we will unmute you and you can go ahead and raise your hand to ask a question. Also, we're going to be switching between speakers and slides today. And to have the best experience, we suggest that you use the speaker view. At the top of your screen, you'll see the button that says View. Click on that and then on Speaker View, and you're all set. Now, I would like to get things started and pass the microphone over to Chief Financial Officer, Bonnie Skidova.
Thank you, Pam. Good afternoon, and thank you all for being with us. To start things off, I'll provide you with a brief overview of our organization, our programs, our impact, and a look at how things are going in these challenging times. The Community Loan Fund provides the financing and support people with low and moderate incomes need to have affordable homes, quality jobs, and childcare. Our founding principles are twofold. First is that one of the barriers that keeps people with low incomes from achieving greater self-sufficiency is a lack of access to credit. And second is that people and organizations that have or manage financial resources are willing to do so to help their neighbors when they have a trusted mechanism to do so. And that's where we come in. We make loans that traditional lenders are not able to make. In recent months, our staff and board have done some work to distill and reaffirm our organizational values. And I'd like to take a minute to share those values with you. First, we live respect. We show up for our partners, colleagues, and clients. We actively engage in communities, connect, share our knowledge, and empower success. We embrace challenges. We find solutions, lead with integrity and authenticity, and we learn and improve and unlock potential. And we advance equity. We strive to model diversity and inclusion. We work to dismantle economic and social barriers while encouraging the full and meaningful engagement of all. These values are our foundation that really shape and motivate our work, and I hope you can see these values reflected in what we share with you in this program today. Many of you know we like to use a bridge to describe our work. We act as a bridge between supporters and borrowers so that neighbors can help neighbors. On one side, we rally resources from supporters like you and then deliver these resources across the bridge to meet borrower needs. Our biggest and longest running lending program is ROC-NH, which stands for Resident-Owned Communities New Hampshire. ROCs are manufactured home communities that have been acquired by the residents that live there. The Community Loan Fund provides loans and educational and technical support to ROCs to build long-term value and security for the residents. Manufactured housing is one of New Hampshire's most important sources of affordable housing. And you'll hear more about this work later in the program and how it's under threat with SB 210. We also offer real fixed rate mortgages to owners of manufactured homes who live in the ROCs or on land that they own. Welcome Home Loan mortgages provide a better alternative to the predatory lending that used to be prevalent in this lending space. In addition, our multifamily housing program lends to housing developers to help create more affordable rental homes for working families. We support community services by helping nonprofit organizations buy, renovate, or build facilities. And our childcare initiative provides loans, business training, and assistance to childcare centers to preserve and create childcare spaces that are in such high demand. The Community Loan Fund also provides loans and education to support the growth and resilience of small businesses in New Hampshire. Our business finance team offers flexible financing and customized coaching. This means more quality jobs are created and preserved in New Hampshire. Statewide impact has been generated from our beginnings in 1983 through today. We've been able to help individuals with affordable homes, adding childcare spaces and business growth through our lending programs. Since we began, we've made more than $395 million in loans and investments and helped leverage $887 million in total project value. And this is work we could not do without the help of our supporters. Here in the breakout of loans in our portfolio, you can see that we are primarily an affordable housing lender, with Rock N H manufactured housing cooperative loans at 61% of loans outstanding, Welcome Home Loans at 27%, and multifamily housing at 4%. The nonprofit, childcare, and small business loans round out the remaining 8% of the portfolio. And how's the portfolio performing? Like many other community development financial institutions around the country, we haven't experienced significant increases in delinquencies or loan losses during the pandemic thus far. Right now, only 2% of our loans outstanding are in troubled loan categories. This is up what it was before the pandemic at 1%, but still far better than what we had initially projected. And our net loan losses have been very low too, at 0.1% since the pandemic began, compared to 2.4% historically. So far, our borrowers have been resilient. They're performing well, but we're concerned about what lies ahead as tough economic conditions persist. We are in a good financial position to help address the challenges ahead. And with the help of our donors and investors, we'll continue to provide patient capital, payment relief, and assistance to borrowers in need. Demand for our loan continues to be very strong. In our most recently completed fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021, we made 162 loans totaling nearly $26 million. These went to 265 families for housing, 9 resident-owned communities, 6 small businesses, and 3 nonprofits. And in this current fiscal year, we're on track to meet or exceed last year's numbers. In addition, many strong ROCs and small businesses in our portfolio are now in a better bankable position. Having seasoned with us, many have refinanced with banks for lower rates. This is good for our borrowers' financial health and good for us too. As a revolving loan fund, we get to recycle these repayments into future lending opportunities. So how do we fund our mission? A good portion of our operating and overhead costs are covered by earned income. We are only able to provide loan capital and technical assistance through the generous support of donations and grants and investments. When donors give, they can choose from one of 2 options for how their donations are used. The first is to help pay for specialized education and training for borrowers. And the second is for donations to be part of our flexible lending pool. Donations for this purpose stay with the organization indefinitely as part of a revolving loan fund. These donations are loaned out over and over. And finally, our investors continue to be strong partners in support of mission. Opportunity investments give potential investors with as little as $1,000 the opportunity to invest in New Hampshire communities and to earn a fixed rate of interest in return. And many investors lend to us at 0%. One of the trends that began before COVID and that has increased during the pandemic is our need for lower cost investments. For example, manufactured home cooperatives that are trying to keep their rents stable while preventing huge equity firms from buying their communities need low rate subordinate loans. In these unsettled times, 0% investments are a tool we're needing more and more often. Gifts and grants will always provide us the most flexibility to deliver what our borrowers need, and making it a 0% investment is another opportunity to help get resources to neighbors in a meaningful way. In conclusion, I simply want to say thank you. Your generosity has made an impact in New Hampshire, helping to keep people in their homes and businesses intact during these unsettling times. And there's more work to be done. And now to tell you more about the ROC&H program and how this important affordable housing solution is in danger from Senate Bill 210, I'd like to introduce Tara Reardon, our Vice President of ROC&H.
Thanks, Bonnie. Imagine for a moment that you live here. It's your home, your neighborhood. Some people call it manufactured housing or mobile homes, but you call it, it's home. The land your home sits on is owned by some guys that own a lot of parks, and your rent goes up a little each year, but it's still cheaper than the house you sold or any apartment you could rent. Your neighborhood is great to walk in, and you and Sally, who lives across the street, get out to walk every day. One day, you got a letter by certified mail, and it was from the park owner saying he's selling the community to a group out of Las Vegas. Your heart skips a beat and you're not really sure what to do, but before you know it, you're meeting Sally out front. What does this mean? Is it still going to be a manufactured housing park? So many questions, so much uncertainty. As you and your neighbors are asking these questions, someone remembers that their coworker who lives in another manufactured housing community in town organized and bought their community when it was going to be sold. As this plays out in the neighborhood, back at the Community Loan Fund, the ROC team has received the same notice faxed to them from New Hampshire Housing Finance, who do that by statute. The ROC team receives calls from worried homeowners and looks for a meeting place to accommodate the community residents. The team knows that the 60 days that the residents have, that clock is ticking, and it'll be 3 weeks in by the time a meeting happens. Once they line up a spot and some basic facts about the purchase and sale, they head out to the community to put an information packet and a meeting invite and agenda on each doorknob. Before the pandemic, the team would stop and knock and answer questions too. You're so relieved to get the packet of info, and before you know it, you're back out having conversations with your neighbors. You're going to the meeting, but Sally's part-time job will prevent her from going. Jane's recovering from a broken hip and her husband's staying home with her. A few others can make it, but some say, no way. If the park owner finds out, I don't want to be on his bad list. Frank says we're all crazy and wasting our time. Where would we find $3 million to buy the park? He's on electric assistance. He couldn't even qualify for a new car loan. You attend the meeting along with 17 other households. Not a bad turnout for an 80-unit community. The ROC team tells you who the Community Loan Fund is, what a cooperative is, and what your path to becoming resident-owned is. I'm thrilled to be at the idea of running our own community, making our own rules, and mostly only increasing the rent when we need it to balance the budget. It sounds like it'll take a lot of time and research, and the residents vote 17-1 to move forward and do that research. You guessed it, Frank voted no. He still thinks it's crazy. What a relief to have a clear path. You can't wait to go home and tell your neighbors. That vote that just happened, Senate Bill 210, would have required a minimum of 40 households to be present, and all of them voting in favor. And it would have required even more if Frank convinced some of his neighbors that it wasn't possible. More about Senate Bill 210 later. As many of you are aware, New Hampshire homeowners living in manufactured housing communities have an opportunity provided to them by the legislature in the 1980s to buy their communities if the park owner receives an offer from another buyer. The Community Loan Fund has worked with those residents for nearly 37 years to assist them to organize, conduct the due diligence on the community, and if feasible, assist them with a purchase money mortgage, often in conjunction with local banks. This novel idea, providing money and technical assistance to otherwise vulnerable homeowners, has resulted in the preservation of over 8,500 households in 140 communities just in the state of New Hampshire. Further, this great idea has spread across the United States with resident-owned communities in 18 states now. We're happy to report that despite a pandemic, the success continues. There's been challenges with Zoom meetings and lack of internet, and meetings held outside until it's just too cold to do it any longer. But last fiscal year, 5 communities became ROCs, So far, halfway through this fiscal year, 5 more have become ROCs, and we have 5 more communities in the pipeline actively working towards purchasing their communities. With new ROCs, inevitably come some vacant lots. These lots represent lost revenue in the ROCs budget, but they also represent a new affordable housing opportunity in a really tight housing market. We've focused a great deal of time and attention on these lots. We term that effort infill and recognize the advantage of infill, new net revenue for the ROC budget, and an increase in the affordable housing stock for eager home buyers. We've created a short video about ROCs, infill, and the affordable housing need that we'd like to share with you now.
The state of affordable housing in the region is in crisis mode. It's really a struggle to find housing either to rent or to buy if you're making $15, $16, $17 an hour. I mean, we're seeing right now restaurants not operating at full capacity because they can't find the staff to fill the shifts. Resident-owned communities are often overlooked as affordable housing solutions that can meet the budget of everyday working families.
This park is about family, and this is what we wanted. When we became a co-op, we wanted this park to be a family. We have all types of people that live here. We have the low income, the medium income, mothers that stay home with their children. We have mechanics, to carpenters, to plumbers. We want to keep housing affordable for everybody.
To own a manufactured home is about $1,000 a month now, compared to a rental cost of about $1,500 a month. The manufactured homes are a really common choice for people who are buying their first home or retirees buying their last home. There's also a big portion of people with disabilities, much more common than the general population, because manufactured homes are easy to take care of, one-floor living, low taxes, very easy to put a ramp on the front. Right now, you can buy a manufactured home, a brand new, beautiful, pick your own colors manufactured home, typically about $90,000. The rest of the New Hampshire real estate market, it's about $400,000. Just makes it so affordable for people who want to know that not every dollar in their pocket is going to their housing.
So we had a couple that came through. They live in Massachusetts and they work in New Hampshire, so they wanted to move up here. And they drove through and they were impressed by the construction. They're doing improvements, and this is the community that I want to live in. We had 6 empty spots, so we have 2 reserved, so we have 4 more empty spots that we're looking to bring some new homes in.
We have 328 lots. We have 307 houses, so we have 21 more lots to fill.
We know that there are about 300 vacant lots right now. Placing new manufactured homes is part of the solution for workforce housing. When people are able to come into a new manufactured home and see the quality that's built in, see the energy features, see the kitchen design, you can pick your carpet, people feel like it's home.
I hope you enjoyed that video. It highlights 2 of the great communities that we work with located in Keene and Jaffrey. I'd like to now introduce you to our communications guy, Steve Barnum, with his perspective on ROCs. Steve, over to you.
Thanks, Tara, and hi, everyone. 4 years ago, I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Manchester. It was pretty no frills, but the rent was fair and the owner allowed pets, so it worked for me. After my first year, the rent was raised $150 a month. And the next spring, after new owners took over and marketed them as luxury apartments, they weren't luxury apartments, they wanted another $200 a month. Now, because I work here, I know that renting a manufactured home in a resident-owned community is far less expensive than renting. So one Sunday morning, Kiko, my dog, and I rode around the resident-owned communities around in the Concord area that allowed pets. And we lucked out. In Freedom Village Cooperative in Concord, I saw a for sale sign and the owners happened to be in the driveway. We talked a bit and they were kind enough to walk me around, and I signed a purchase and sales agreement 3 days later. I've been there almost 2 years, and all I can say is it's been a great decision for me. I recently checked the rents back at the apartment complex where I live, and they're now getting more than $1,700 for the 1-bedroom apartment I rented. I'm saving about $400 a month in total housing costs. And my home is half again as large as the apartment was, and I own it. But it's not just about the money, not even close. The back of my house opens up to a big deck that overlooks a hayfield and a wooded area. I'm a country boy, so that feels a lot like home to me. I also like being part of a cooperative. I moved in just as COVID hit. And the park is 100 homes, so I can't say that I know even half of my neighbors. But I do know that when I'm outside, everyone who drives by waves or stops to wish me a good day. Last weekend, when we were all digging out from the snowstorm, folks walked their shovels and snow blowers up and down the streets to clear their neighbors' driveways and walks. Freedom Village is an over 55 community, over age 55 community. So at 69, I'm kind of a youngster. The majority of my neighbors are seniors on fixed incomes or who have disabilities or both. My neighbors on both sides of my house have disabilities. And the fact that they live in affordable, compact, one-story homes with neighbors close by to look at them allows them to be independent. And that's really important. We're also a little democracy run by a volunteer board of directors. Every fall, we have a full membership meeting to conduct the co-op's business. And the weekend before the meeting, we go door to door to remind people to attend and to offer rides to our neighbors who need them. We then gather in what I'm pretty sure used to be a garage and vote for board members, set the budget and the rents for the coming year, get people's questions answered, and generally try to keep our community a great place to live. I have to say to you, those of you who support us in any way on this call, that would not happen without you. And these little democracies and these great homes that are exactly what people need would not happen without you. So thank you on behalf of myself, right, and my neighbors. In a minute, Tara's going to tell you about the New Hampshire Senate bill that would effectively shut down the spread of resident-owned communities in New Hampshire. I can add that if my neighbors didn't have the resident-owned community option open to them, they'd have to rely on family to take them in, most of them, or they'd need taxpayer subsidized housing. They would lose their independence, they would lose their stability, and they would lose a measure of pride, and they deserve better. So I'm going to let Tara tell you about this bill and how we're fighting it. Tara, back to you.
Sorry, I think I was muted. Can you imagine no new rocks in the state of New Hampshire? I'd like to go back to the threat that Senate Bill 210 poses to this affordable housing solution that's worked for 37 years without a community failure. It's empowered residents, and the movement is such a success that this exact model has spread far beyond New Hampshire. The vote that you and your neighbors took is early in this process. Although ROCs or cooperatives have nearly 100% membership, and all of the members annually vote on their budgets, their rules, and any rent changes, we would rarely have achieved that 50% or more threshold of all residents in a community in any ROC that I've seen in the last 9 years. That's 37 ROCs that would never have happened. You heard it here in the neighborhood discussion: fear of their landlord and being a rabble-rouser, transportation, caring for another, or believing that mostly low to moderate income residents buying a multi-million-dollar property is just not possible. Senate Bill 210 requires over 50% of the households in the community to vote yes. Can you imagine that in your local elections? How many elected officials get more than 50% of the votes of all the people in their town? Not registered voters, everyone. The State House would be empty. So why not take the vote later? They do. When all the due diligence is complete, when the residents know the status of their infrastructure, they have a commitment for financing, they know what their lot rent will be, they vote again as members of a legally formed cooperative with recorded votes and resolutions that all lenders require for a commercial real estate purchase and financing. We're focused on the opposition to Senate Bill 210 to preserve the rights of future ROC homeowners and ROC members to have the same opportunity for secure and stable housing as the existing 8,500 households do. Our website, communityloanfund.org, provides an easy path to contact your state senator and ask them to oppose Senate Bill 210. We've heard from senators that they're hearing from you that you're opposed, and it has been impactful. If you'd like to join us on the day of the hearing, we will rally residents, staff, and supporters at the State House on Tuesday morning, February 8th at 9:15. The hearing's conveniently held just inside the State House in room 100, which is just off the Hall of Flags immediately as you walk in the front door. We'll have t-shirts to wear or signs to hold. You can testify without ever speaking, but we will ask you to sign in at the hearing in opposition to the bill. If you're unable to attend the hearing, there's a way to register your opposition to SB 210 on the New Hampshire General Court website, and I know some of you have already done that. You'll find that link and instructions on the front page of our website. Mostly, we hope you will lend your voice to ours in support of this smart solution to our affordable housing crisis. It's never been more critical to the future of ROCs in New Hampshire. It's now my pleasure to introduce Steve Saltzman, our new president and CEO, for those of you who have not had the chance to meet him yet, as Steve closes in on 1 year of his tenure at the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund. Steve, it's all yours.
Hey, Tara, thank you for that great presentation, and thank all of you for attending this webinar. But I also really want to thank you for your donations. I want to thank you for your investments. And we really can't do that enough. But for your support, we're not able to make these subordinate loans. We're not able to take the chances that we've had. This has been a fascinating year for the Community Loan Fund, not just because I'm here, and especially not because I'm here. Our Welcome Home Loan team, the team that makes loans to people to buy manufactured homes, had an all-time high year. And these are loans where we're making loans to manufactured homes the same way you would to a stick-built home, something that happens in very few other parts of the country. Our ROC program, we've reached 140 resident-owned communities. It means 1/3 of the parks in New Hampshire are actually owned by the residents. At a time when there's so much cynicism about what works in government, what works in community development, we actually are making a material impact on what happens in the state of New Hampshire. People talk about gentrification and about it as if it were this invisible force that's unstoppable. We recently made 2 loans to Black-owned businesses that if they weren't able to buy their buildings, they were going to be displaced from the communities they largely helped build. What's interesting is both of these businesses were largely cash-based businesses and ostensibly unbanked. If you want to know how you stop gentrification, well, you help people that are economically disenfranchised by their buildings, and it's lessons learned from ROC NH. I really can't talk about Senate Bill 210 enough or loudly enough. And let me be unequivocal. This is a bill that doesn't help anybody in the state of New Hampshire. It doesn't help the residents living in a park. It doesn't help park owners. It doesn't get them a higher price. It doesn't help employers who need places for their teams to live. The only people that it helps is out-of-state private equity funds that want to have an easier time buying parks without having to deal with the residents. So I want to ask you to continue making donations to the Community Loan Fund. I want to ask you to keep making low-cost investments in the Community Loan Fund. But I really want to ask you to come with us on February 8th and to do everything you can to fight Senate Bill 210. You would be hard-pressed to think about another non-federally subsidized affordable home ownership program, and this one is at risk. I would say there are times where you want to fight the good fight, do your best, and that's good enough. There are no Pyrrhic victories when it comes to Senate Bill 210. This is a fight we absolutely have to win for the state of New Hampshire. Again, I want to thank my team for the great year that they've had so far. I want to thank everybody on the webinar for joining us today and your continued support of the Community Loan Fund. Pam, why don't I turn it back over to you and we can start, let someone other than the staff talk.
Great. Thank you all so much. Thank you, team. That was a lot of really great information, and the questions have already kind of started in the chat, so we will jump right in. I'll start with the chat questions, but if folks have any questions you want to speak up, please just raise your hand and we will unmute you. Two of them I feel like kind of align with the same theme, which is why would 210 supporters say that this bill is a good one? What is their argument? I don't know, Tara or Steve, which one? Yeah, Tara, okay.
I'll take a shot at it and certainly hope Steve will chime in with his thoughts. We have heard that there are some disgruntled residents that didn't feel like they got a vote. They had to pay to vote. That's a $5 fee to join the cooperative. But that is not at the point that SB 210 is talking about. It is within the first 30 to 60 days that this group even realizes that their community is for sale and that it's being sold and that they have an opportunity here. And that yes or no vote is to do the due diligence and find out if they want to buy the park. So we expect to hear at least one resident come to the hearing and say that. I think the senators, some of the senators that we've talked to so far aren't clear of what the meaning of the bill is. They actually think it just sounds like a fairness thing, not understanding all of the dynamics or the opportunities or the success of the program as an affordable housing solution here in the state of New Hampshire. So we're eager for the hearing to hear if there's something else other than a disgruntled resident there or a disappointed private equity or hedge fund buyer that didn't get to buy the community and suck the money out of the state of New Hampshire instead of keeping it in the local economy. But that's what we've heard from a couple of senators so far.
Great, thank you. It was also asked, will this committee hearing be available online?
It is available online at the New Hampshire legislative website is called the New Hampshire General Court. And when you type that into the Google line and you get the New Hampshire General Court website, near the bottom, it's a Senate hearing. And there is a link you can click on that says Senate online streaming. You click on that and you'll have to know what committee it's before. It's before the Senate Commerce Committee, and you'll have to know the bill number. And we've said Senate Bill 210 until I'm saying it in my sleep. Now click on that. I watched a couple of hearings this morning and it is really easy to do that. You can't, there's no input, there's no testimony. You don't oppose or support the bill from that position. That's a different button on the website, but it's very easy to watch it. It actually connects you to YouTube.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Pam.
Yep. The next question I see in New Hampshire Community Loan Fund includes diversity, equity, and inclusion among its corporate values. Could you share some examples of DEI initiatives within the organization, its projects, and donors? Steve, would you like to take this one?
Sure, thank you. I think our work is both internal and it's external. Internally, we're spending a year working with Jermaine Moore, the Marcel Group, on DEI training, diversity, equity, inclusion, really learning about the ways in which we engage with each other, as well as how do we make our policies more reflective. We're also working with a gentleman by the name of Luis Ortega, who leads an organization called Storytellers for Change. And the whole idea being that if we can learn to tell our own stories better, we're going to become better listeners at hearing other people's stories. Other things that we're doing externally is that we opened our first office in Manchester, our first office outside the city of Concord. And this is really a blueprint for what we hope to do in the future, where we hope to open satellite offices around the state, we need to be as present in co-ops and Grafton as we are in Concord. We're in Manchester, we're doing a joint venture with the Manchester NAACP, which is going to really be focused on understanding the needs of Black and Latinx owned businesses, as well as those of New Americans. I think what's fascinating to us is that there's a ton of capital available. There's $3.5 trillion of excess liquidity at American banks, but there are still people that have access to that still don't have access to capital. And I think part of it is that banks often conflate who's incompetent with who's incomplete. And often, with a lot of our borrowers, like the 2 loans I talked about earlier, they didn't use Quicken, they didn't have QuickBooks, but one of them had run their market for 15 years. The other was a 5-year businesses. These were durable, resilient businesses that had deep roots in their communities. They just weren't banked. So working with the Manchester NAACP, we're really going to try to do everything that we learned how to do in Rock, provide technical assistance. We're going to try to do the exact same thing in Manchester and try to figure out how we can engage in other parts of the state in the same way. But I'd say if there's a cornerstone of it, it is how do we help, minority-owned businesses make sure that they can have multi-generational, stability. The same way that a Rock ensures that people are going to have housing stability throughout their lives and they can pass it on to their children. How do we do that in the business community as well? So helping people buy their buildings so they can't be displaced is a real priority for us. Whoever asked that question, thank you, because this is a real passion of the staff, and it's something that I hope by 5 years from now we'll be as known for as we are our Welcome Home Loan Program and our Rock NH program.
Thank you, Steve. Next question we have, who are the sponsors of SB 210?
This lobbyist that brought this on behalf of the New Hampshire Manufactured Housing Association did a great job of getting sponsors. 10 out of 24 senators, including the majority and minority leaders, Senator Bradley and Senator Soucy, are both on it, as well as Senators Hennessy, Birdsell, Gray, Gannon, Avard, Gaida, Carson, Daniels, and 4 members of the House, one from the House Commerce Committee and the House Majority Leader. So she did her homework and did a great job lining up sponsors. I will say the Vice Chair of the Commerce Committee in the House was asked about this bill the other day, and he said, "What? I love co-ops. There's one in my hometown that looks way better since the residents owned it." So again, I think we need to do a lot of educating the senators who are the sponsors, because I'm not really sure they realize what they signed on to in some cases here. Thank you for that question.
Next question, when we reach out to senators, what key points should we make?
Probably the most important point that you can make to your senator is that you're a New Hampshire voter. And if you live in that senator's district, definitely let that senator know that they're your senator and representing you. Secondly, let them know you're opposed. In the depths of the arguments in the Senate, sometimes it's confusing about what the motion is and what the bill is. So secondly, you're opposed. And the third would be, in your own words, why you support affordable housing. This is a great affordable housing program that has worked for the state of New Hampshire for a long time. And it's important to keep that, making the progress it is, not bring it to a screeching halt there. And that we really don't see who it benefits. Certainly we're not in the business in New Hampshire of, we like our homegrown solutions. We don't need to be solving problems for private equity firms or hedge fund managers from out of state.
Thank you. And it looks like Steve is currently sharing our website to just kind of show all of the information. We will be sending out an email following maybe the next couple of days to make sure that we capture all of this information for you. So if you would like to easily access it, just be on the lookout for that email. Another question that we have in the chat, can you provide us an update on your childcare program, any part two, sorry. Any COVID success stories? I'm not sure who wants to take the lead on that one.
I could probably answer some of that.
Oh, thanks, Bethany.
Okay, great. I'm really glad you asked that question because we're starting this revolutionary capacity change initiative with Early Learning New Hampshire called the Child Care Business Support Center. And it'll be a one-stop shop for childcare centers to go to for anything about resources, loans, TA, business TA in particular, as well as a shared services platform where they'll save tons of money on insurance, HR needs, food, waste disposal. And it's something that is long been needed, dealing with the fragmentary nature of the resources available for childcare centers. So we're super excited to be part of that. We are working on getting a match for an anonymous funder for $500,000, and we're almost there. And we're really excited about the news there. In terms of COVID, I believe that there's more money that's going to be coming through the system on both the state and federal level. We are working closely with Early Learning New Hampshire to see how that money comes through. And this is where the Business Support Center is helpful because we want centers to use that money and smartly. It's best for the long term. So that's where we are now. I know there was a loan recently for a childcare center to replace their roof. So we're happy about that. But yes, I think there's going to be a lot more COVID resources. Childcare continues to be a hot topic in this state as well as across the country.
Thank you so much, Bethany. I think that was it for questions in the chat. I'll give some opportunity here. I'll scroll my screens to see if anyone wants the opportunity to unmute and ask a question. Or if not, you can continue to use the chat. Stephen, one question, Steve Burnham, was a lot of love for that video. Great job with that. When will it be shared, available on our website? Do we have a plan on use of video?
Yes and yes. It's on YouTube. It's on our YouTube channel now, and we typically send out an email after events like this with links, and certainly we'll provide the link to the video there. It came about because of a particular concern in the Monadnock region, where there simply are not enough workforce housing opportunities for people there, and we thought that our infill focus could apply directly to that. So we're going to be showing it as often and in as many venues as we can in that area of the state. And the plan is to follow it up with a statewide video that isn't just about Monadnock, but talks about the need statewide. So stay tuned. We'll give you all the links to everything you need. And thank you.
Thank you. Another question popped up. Current returns on supporter loans. Who would like to take that one?
I can take that one. So assuming this means, what interest rates we provide to investors for making investments to help support the community, you can choose your interest rate anywhere between 0% and up to 3%, depending on the length of the investment. So you can have 3% if you're investing between 5 and 10 years. But as we talked about in our program earlier, the lower cost investments, the 0%, the 1% investments really help us get lower cost loans out to our borrowers that need the lower cost funding as well.
Thank you, Bonnie. Another great question about that video. How about getting the video on New Hampshire Public TV? Great idea. I don't know if we thought about that. There you go. Thank you for that one. That's a great idea. We'll look into. Any other questions? I don't want to be missing anyone's hand here. Okay. Well, with that, we again want to thank you so much for your time today. As you've heard from the team, there are many ways to support our efforts. In the next couple of days, you'll receive the email from us with the link to today's webinar, as well as the link to our website for more information on how to support our efforts against SB 210. Please do not hesitate to forward any of this information along to anyone you feel might be interested in this conversation. Also, we've heard from many of you that these webinars are extremely beneficial. So over the course of the next year, we will be organizing additional webinars that will dig deeper into some of our programs to help bring awareness to the impact that they have on our state. So please keep an eye out for these emails, and we hope that you'll be able to join us. But thank you so much for your time, and we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Hi, everyone. Take care.